Good day and welcome to Conversations with AARP in the Virgin Islands. I'm Troy Deshabert-Schuster, State Director of AARP in this territory. And once again, it's a pleasure to be with you to bring you important information affecting the lives of all of us here in the Virgin Islands. Food insecurity is a major issue that affects people across the earth. Countries around the world often struggle with food scarcity, but sustainable agriculture can change the system and yield economic benefits. The ability for any nation to change the food system can transform the way they feed themselves while achieving economic gains. It is a significant game changer. Today's program investigates how the development of the agricultural industry in the Virgin Islands can be a driving force to addressing the problem of food scarcity while providing economic growth for the territory. And so today, I'm pleased to welcome to our show Peter Chapman of the University of the Virgin Islands Research and Technology Park, or the UVI RT Park. Welcome, Peter.
Good to be here, Corey. Troy, sorry. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Great. Thank you for making the time to be with us and to share with us some of what you're doing in the RT Park. As I mentioned before the show, I've passed by the building many times and I've often wondered what happens in there. So I'm looking forward to learning, and I'm sure that many of our listeners and viewers are wondering the same kind of thing. And so we look forward to gaining that information. So share with us exactly what is your role at the UVI RT Park?
Sure. So I am the Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer of the UVI Research and Technology Park Corporation. And if appropriate, I'd like to give just a 10,000 foot overview of what we are.
Sure.
Is that okay?
Please do.
So the UVI RT Park Corporation is an economic development organization. We are an independent affiliate of the university, which means we have our own governance structure in place. We have our own revenue. We have a board that's separate from the universities. We were established in 2002 through an act of legislation from the Virgin Islands General Assembly that created us. And if you look across the landscape on the mainland U.S., entities like ours are called public-private partnerships or private-public partnerships, which means that they are established for some public mission, but they have the independence of private organizations. And so that is very much the mode in which we operate as the RT Park. So we were established through what's called Title 17 of the Virgin Islands Code. And we were established really as a mechanism for expanding and diversifying the economy beyond, petrochemical refining, tourism, rum production, things like that. So in order to create a more resilient and a diverse economy, so the theory goes, you need to have organizations like the RT Park to harness new growth sectors or nurture businesses and new growth sectors and new industries. So that's in a nutshell who we are and why we were established 19 years ago.
So in your work, you just mentioned about helping new businesses become established, but do you also work to bring in businesses from off island?
We do. And let me first talk about really the three big buckets of industries or sectors that we focus on. And there is some overlap. So there's traditional information technology, which covers a number of different areas, from medical informatics to specialized software development to financial technology. We also assist other knowledge-based businesses that may have some technological dimension to what they do, but they're not pure tech companies. And then the third leg of the sector stool for us is sustainable agriculture and agricultural research, which I know is something that you all would like to talk about today. So we do our work in really two big ways. There are two big focus areas for us. So one is business attraction, which means applying that sector lens as we go about marketing the territory to new companies in an effort to facilitate their establishment of new operations here, or operations that are mirror functions of what they do on the mainland US. The other big focus for us is entrepreneurship programming, which I can talk about. So those are the two big focuses of our work, and it's really how we go about facilitating investment. So I'll pause there because there are many different layers to how the RT Park operates.
And when it comes to attracting businesses from off island, I often wonder, why is it that so many of them are hesitant, seemingly, to start operations in the Virgin Islands or on St. Croix in particular? I mean, we have so many benefits here: economic benefits, tax benefits, et cetera. What kinds of things do you hear? What are you hearing from some of these businesses and their hesitancy maybe to do business here in the Virgin Islands?
Yeah, Troy, that's a great question, and we have many attributes, we have many benefits, but we also have some challenges and some opportunities. So one is the cost of energy. So right now our energy rates are somewhere in the neighborhood of 42 cents per kilowatt hour, and that is many times more than the cost of energy in many jurisdictions in the mainland U.S. and in other industrialized parts of the world. So that is a very significant obstacle for many companies. For knowledge-based companies that need people, that need talent, it can be sometimes challenging for them to fulfill all of their talent needs, looking exclusively at our local market. And so, we don't have an easy fix for that, but that is something that we are addressing. So those are two of the concerns that we hear most often from companies that we talk to about the feasibility of locating operations in the Virgin Islands.
Excellent. And so every October, the world recognizes World Food Day as a time to remind us that economic growth is only sustainable if a country has food security. Can you share with us how food sustainability, or why food sustainability is essential for economic growth?
Sure. So not to be a geeky development economist, but the Virgin Islands right now, just to put it in some local context, we import literally 97% of our food product. So in Puerto Rico, which also has very interesting numbers in this respect, they're at 89%. So we fare even worse than Puerto Rico. So if you are importing most of your food product, when you look at the data in the aggregate, when you look at it on a per family basis, on an individual consumer basis, you find that people are paying a lot more for those products than if they were producing those food products here. And so if you're spending more on food products, it limits your ability to save. It limits the resources you have available for other critical needs, like housing, savings, so forth and so on. So at a very, very basic level, food dependence, if you will, depletes the resources of Virgin Islanders. And when you are dependent on other nations, when you're dependent on other jurisdictions, it means that you don't have viable, robust entrepreneurship activities within the food sector. And so again, you are witnessing the outflow of capital from the local market, which is not a good thing for long-term economic growth.
Interesting. Yeah, and it's so true. We bring in so much of our food product, but then when food is grown here and produced here, are you finding that the local groceries and supermarkets are willing to purchase from local producers to sell, or are they still bringing in food, a lot of it from the States that
You
could be
know, I find that, and some of this data is anecdotal. I find that the local supermarkets, and again, this is based on more qualitative discussions that we've had with supermarkets and other food-oriented retailers. They are very willing to purchase and sell the products that are grown and harvested here, but you just don't have enough to meet the demand of people in the Virgin Islands. So at the end of the day, they are maybe fulfilling 3% of the demand that exists here, and that's a pretty bleak number, quite frankly.
Yeah, yep, certainly. And so how is the RT Park leading the discussion of food sustainability here in the Virgin Islands? What is the RT Park doing to move the needle?
Sure. So to just put our work in some historical context, even though agricultural research or sustainable agriculture, which is really the modern day term for this, even though that was a part of our founding mission, the RT Park did not start working in earnest on food sector programming really until 2 years ago, maybe a little bit over 2 years ago. So this is a new endeavor for us. And we are addressing this in two very tangible ways. One is we've placed a critical focus on attracting more sustainable agriculture companies, in particular, companies that specialize in technologies that support and promote the growth of food. So very basic. And we have some interesting companies in the queue, one or two of which we'll be making announcements about within the coming month. We have also undertaken a catalytic project that we call Tech Village. It really should be called Food Tech Village, because the critical focus or principal focus of that effort is going to be companies that specialize in the research and growth of food products and other sustainable products, but primarily food. And when you're ready, I can talk in a little bit more detail about the various elements of Tech Village, because it's a large, very complex project.
Well, please do tell us about that. That sounds very interesting. I've never heard of the Tech Village.
Sure. So Tech Village is a project we've been working on for literally over 2 years. At the end of the day, it will be roughly a $50 million project, mostly privately financed. We have been working intensively over the past year on the first phase, which is roughly 25 million. I'm rounding up. It's actually 24.7 million. And in the first phase, we will have roughly 18,000 square feet. We will be building 18,000 square feet of office and R&D space that will be marketed heavily to sustainable agriculture businesses. We will also have 66 units of what we call affordable market rate housing or workforce housing, because you can't attract and sustain economic growth without the requisite residential units to accommodate workers and other folks, right? So that is what we envision in the first phase. That first phase is also going to include roughly 17, 18 acres of land to support what we call venture farming or venture agricultural initiatives. And so those are the critical elements, Troy, of phase one of Tech Village. The first phase, as I indicated, is about $25 million. $18 million of that will be coming from private sources. So not to get too deep in the weeds, but that 18 million consists of both debt financing and private equity. The project is slated for development in what's called a federally designated qualified opportunity zone, which is a special opportunity zone that provides certain tax benefits to investors in projects in those areas. So the siting of this project is very critical to us. And the site, by the way, that we're targeting is a 26-acre parcel on St. Croix, directly across Centerline Road from the UVI St. Croix campus. And this is a very timely discussion because we are awaiting action by the Virgin Islands Senate to approve the conveyance of the land to the RT Park. We are operating under some pretty rigid time constraints with our financial partners. So it's critical that we get that land conveyed to us as soon as possible.
And then once the land is conveyed and all the other steps and important processes take place, like how long do you think, if everything goes really well, how long will it take for all of this to be up and running?
Yeah, so we are looking at closing on our financing at the end of the year. And then from there, we will work on groundbreaking during the first quarter of 2022. And from there, it's roughly an 18-month construction schedule. So folks can start looking for completion or nearing completion, let's say mid to late 2023, with the residential units being first out of the ground, followed by the office and research and development space.
And so to be clear then, the purpose of this whole development then is to ultimately help local food producers produce more food? Is that?
Yeah, it really is about creating a physical place where primarily food-oriented, sustainable agriculture businesses can land, okay? So when you look at how larger scale economic development is done really throughout the industrialized world, whether you're talking about the mainland US, whether you're talking about, Taiwan, whether you're talking about Korea, what you see is economic development organizations create places like business parks or investment areas where companies within certain sectors find it easy to identify operating space, office space. Very often these areas also include housing. They include residential space so that you have in many areas live-work dynamics. So that's the same model that we are trying to bring to bear with our Tech Village project on St. Croix.
Okay, and so the local farmers that we have here now, how precisely could they expect to benefit from this development? Yeah,
so that's a great question. So we've identified an anchor tenant for Tech Village. That anchor tenant is a St. Thomas-based company that has a patent or what we call intellectual property on a process for growing toxin-free root vegetables. This company will engage local farmers in some sort of cooperative model so that local farmers can benefit not only from the planting and the harvesting of toxin-free vegetables, starting with cassava root, by the way, but they will also be able to benefit economically, financially in the value-added products that are created from the cassava root that's grown as part of the Tech Village project. So that will be the first crop. We will also be, over a period of time, we will also be sharing revenue with the local farming community. through the Department of Agriculture. So what that means is after the RT Park pays its debt service, okay, we will, of course, through our board, we will approve some amount of money that will be set aside for farmers in a fund. We have a working title for the fund, which is called the Fund for Agricultural Progress. And the idea is to make dollars available in a non-bureaucratic way, make dollars available for local farmers to help them make the transition from subsistence farming to sustainable farming. And just to define those terms a little bit, Troy. So subsistence farming is farming that supports, let's say, individual families or people who live in a very specific small community. And when we talk about sustainable agriculture, what we're talking about agriculture that can produce enough goods to support people in a broad geographic area, whether it's the Virgin Islands, whether it's products that then get exported to other places. So we want to position our farming community to be able to take that critical step. And let me also be very clear for your viewers, the RT Park is an economic development organization, but we are not trying to take the place of what other entities do for farmers in the territory, whether it is nonprofit organizations, whether it's government organizations. We are simply fulfilling our legislative mandate under Title 17 to bring to bear impactful value-added services for the agricultural community.
And what about cannabis? That seems to be such a hot topic these days. How does that all tie in with sustainable farming? How does the RT Park view that? And will the RT Park be taking a role in that development?
Yeah, we don't. It's another great question. We don't really have a position on cannabis at this time, not an official position. So I would be disingenuous if I suggested that we are not privy to what's going on. We have to remain privy to what's happening, to discussions that are happening in that area. But we don't have any concrete plans at this point to become involved in cannabis. Now, having said that, if we see that there is some opportunity to support the nurturing of, let's say, some organization that's doing research and development into cannabis production, or if there is some entity that has come up with a technology, okay, that would support the growth of cannabis for impactful economic development purposes, that is an area that we would take a close look at. But right now, I would say most, if not all, of our focus in the area of sustainable development, particularly sustainable agriculture, is focused on bringing in high impact companies in the food security space, and also getting our Tech Village project underway. And I should also point out, with respect to Tech Village, that it is an economic development and job creating project. So what we are projecting in the first phase of Tech Village, just modestly and conservatively, is 300 jobs. And during a period, Troy, when our economy is fragile, when we have lost on St. Croix our anchor employer, private sector employer, which is the oil refinery, when we are still recovering and not fully recovered from the 2017 hurricanes, it is absolutely critical that we don't miss the opportunity to secure the private financing that we've lined up to make Tech Village a reality. You see that our population has declined over the last 10 years. I'm sure you've seen the census numbers. Yep. That is a function of a number of different things, not least of which is inconsistent and fragile, fragile economy. So Tech Village, while it's not intended to be a panacea, it represents an important step in the right direction, especially for St. Croix.
Great. And people, when they come here, especially from St. Thomas or from St. John, they drive around and say that we have so much space here in St. Croix, so much land, so much flat land, etc. But how much arable land, farmable land do we have on St. Croix? Can we really become more self-sustained with farming production?
Yeah, I believe we can. I can't tell you off the top of my head how much arable land we have, but if you look at that area that we are targeting, that area of St. Croix that we are targeting for Tech Village, what you will see is that you probably have hundreds of acres of arable land. So there is considerable potential from that perspective. But sustainable agriculture and realizing our collective vision and hopes in the area of sustainable agriculture is not something that just happens magically. Okay, you have to invest in talent development, meaning that you have to build the capacity of farmers to engage in sustainable or commercial scale agriculture. And you also have to provide training and education in the area of agriculture. The world of agriculture has changed considerably over the last half generation, which means that it's not just about the type of farming that we typically see on St. Croix. It's about using technologies that will help us become more efficient and produce higher yield crops. And so we have to prepare our existing group of farmers and the next group and the next generation of farmers to participate in technologically relevant farming. And I must say, I want to give the university some kudos in this space, because the university has taken steps towards strengthening its research capabilities in the area of agriculture. So we look forward to working with them, at least tangentially, on this aspect of the Tech Village project.
Well, fantastic. We're right out of time now. And Peter, it's been wonderful speaking with you here at Conversations with AARP in the Virgin Islands. We've been speaking with Peter Chapman, the CEO and Executive Director of the UVI RT Park. Thank you so much for sharing this information with us. We look forward to future developments and learning more from you in the future.
Thank you, Troy. Thanks for having me.
Have a great day.
Take care. You too.